Hello there. I'm Timothy St. John McIntosh Pendergrass, Jingleheimer Schmidt St. Hubbins, the 7th.
The effects have been concentrated on the groups that the do-gooders would most like to help. The people who have been hurt most by minimum wage laws are the blacks. I have often said that the most anti-Negro law on the books of this land is the minimum wage rate. And so I think the real answer to your question is that you must not judge a bottle solely by its label. You have to look at what's inside and see what the law or the measure produces.
Okay, I'm back on. Right now I want to talk about the Chicago teachers strike and what's been going on. I feel like it's a big deal. It's a real big deal. We talking about 350,000 kindergartners not being in school Monday and Tuesday. And that's a big thing if you like a parent or you're a single parent and you got to go to work or whatever you got to do or just to have that break from your kids while your baby in kindergarten and preschool, for those 2 days. And we talking about 350,000 toddlers, So, I don't know what's going to happen with this strike. I feel like, well, Chicago, just in general, is about $500 million in the whole, and that's just the city budget. That's not even the state budget. That's not sales tax and XYZ or anything else counted. That's $500 million in the hole already. And then you having this teacher strike, and you're coming off months like June and July, where you having like 50 murders. Each one of those 50 murders are better in the greater inner city. So it's a lot going on, but I feel like Chicago actually been like this for a while. Chicago been kind of tangled up with political issues and stuff that's not related to politics. Just with the mob and gangsters and people of that sort actually having a foothold on Chicago and getting into these unions and Medicare and whatever. These people are into these unions. That's pretty much what those unions is. And
Hello. Yes. He's probably wondering what in the world.
I feel like the teachers should get the money, y'all, like I said, man, y'all will give LeBron James $100 million, but y'all will pay a teacher $32,000 a year. So, I feel like all in all, the state and the federal government has just got to be more tolerable and understanding and just come to realize that, these people got to make a living. They got to make a living. But the whole time, if high schools in Chicago, there's some pretty bad high schools. It's like even though these high schools turning out good students and students going to college, XYZ, these some pretty tough high schools to teach at, even the top 5. So when you're talking about the bottom 5 is like, it's treacherous. Going into high schools like Finger and King High School and Carver and Harper, Harlan, Morgan Park, even the high schools in the suburbs, Rich South, Central, Rich East. The students out there getting crazy and crazy. So it's like you telling me to do my job and I'm trying to get paid, but so much is going on that's not going to be on the paper, as far as the policy and the union is concerned. Granted, I already know this is the profession that these professionals chose, so they knew what to expect. They know students not angels. Students not angels. I know folks not angels, but we need to take everything into consideration and try to get on the same page. I think most of it is about money. Get the money right. You know, hopefully 350,000 kindergartners won't miss, another day. I mean, like I said, that's a big thing. You know, even just saying that 350,000 kindergartners missing school one day, that's like crazy. That's like chaos. Because like I said, that's a break for the parents. That's a break for the household. That's a break for everybody. So.
Programs that are labeled as being for the poor, for the needy, almost always have effects exactly the opposite of those which their well-intentioned sponsors intend them to have.
As an example, what are you referring to?
Let me give you a very simple example. Take the minimum wage law. It's well-meaning sponsors. There are always, in these cases, two groups of sponsors. There are the well-meaning sponsors, and there are the special interests who are using the well-meaning sponsors as front men. You almost always, when you have bad programs, have an unholy coalition of the do-gooders on the one hand and the special interests on the other. The minimum wage law is as clear a case as you could want. The special interests are, of course, the trade unions, the monopolistic craft trade unions in particular. The do-gooders believe that by passing a law saying that nobody shall get less than $2 an hour or $2.50 an hour or whatever the minimum wage is, you are helping poor people who need the money. You are doing nothing of the kind. What you are doing is to assure that people whose skills are not sufficient to justify that kind of a wage will be unemployed. It is no accident that the teenage unemployment rate, the unemployment rate among teenagers in this country, is over twice as high as the overall unemployment rate. It's no accident that that was not always the case. Until the 1950s, when the minimum wage rate was raised very drastically, very quickly, teenage unemployment was higher than ordinary unemployment because, of course, the teenagers are the ones who are just coming into the labor market. They're searching and finding jobs, and it's understandable that on the average they would be unemployed more. But it was nothing like the extraordinary level it has now reached. It's close to 20%. Why? Because the minimum wage law is most properly described as a law saying employers must discriminate against people who have low skills. That's what the law says. The law says here's a man who has a skill which would justify a wage rate of $1.50, $2 an hour. You may not employ him. It's illegal because if you employ him, you have to pay him $2.50. Well, what's the result? To employ him at $2.50,